Hi, and welcome back. So, hope you enjoyed the first part, which is really around selling. We looked into why sales is such a key and important part of our business cycle, and as we're trying to take our business idea from 0 to 1, and actually where sales comes into every single part of the process of the way that we behave ourselves and the way that we actually are able to go from 0 to 1, not only from a product perspective, but also from a revenue perspective. And we had a look at a couple of techniques that we could actually use to help us in that sales process, one being value selling and the second being challenger sales. So the next part that we're really looking to dive into is more around our business etiquette. And what do I mean by that? Is really our behaviors, the way that we behave ourselves in terms of a business context, and the sorts of techniques that we can use to help us come across as somebody who is a credible person, a credible founder of that business, and someone who's able to take a business from 0 to 1 and get someone to buy into your vision and essentially buy into your passion and what you're really looking to deliver and the value that you're looking to deliver to the world. And the way that we can do this really is around networking and using networking to our advantage. So today we're really going to look into what networking actually is, how we can use it to our advantage, and some of the techniques that we can implement to be a better networker, and how networking well can actually deliver so much value to us, and we're able to also deliver a lot of value to the people that we network with. The second part is just going to be touching on the basics of email writing. Sounds boring, I know, I'm sorry, but I think it's going to be really, really helpful, because by writing strong emails, by having really good written communication, that's how we communicate now. Be that in a larger organization where you're talking to each other, or be that one-to-one when you're just emailing people, and actually using that written text, being ultra clear is going to be mega, mega important. Being able to take really big ideas and lots of information and break those down into one simple email that conveys all of that information in a shorter time and in as fewer words as possible. It truly is a skill that can be massively, massively helpful and allows people to build that trust in you as a very sophisticated founder, someone who is actually capable of really building and taking their business idea from 0 to 1. So first of all, let's look at networking. Now, if you already know what networking is and you're a networking superstar, feel free to skip past this video, either look at a little bit of email writing or move on to the next one. But if you're not, and if you're a newbie to networking and you're trying to understand what it actually is, which is where I was not very many years ago, then please stick around for this part. So the first thing that I want to cover is, what is networking? If you were to sit down and say to yourself, what is networking? That's exactly what I did to myself. And I was like, wow, what actually is it? Is it just about talking to people? Is it just about getting as many business cards as possible? And actually, the more and more I thought about it and thought about what it actually meant to me, I was really focusing more on looking at how you can develop this extensive contact base. So yes, building up that, not necessarily database, but that group of contacts with which you can exchange ideas, information, advice, contacts. And what you're looking to do is really establish a mutually beneficial relationship with these people. And so networking is really around this idea of exchange. And I think if we can keep that in mind, then what it means is that every time we network, we're always thinking about exchange. We're not just thinking, what can we take, but we're actually thinking, what can we give? And what I found from networking is actually the more that you give to your network, so the more that you can think, what is it that I can give to this person? Or you come across a particular contact and you think, you would be great to be connected with somebody else in my network. It'd be brilliant for me to work a little bit more with this person. It'd be brilliant for me to give my ideas, my feedback to this person who's asked for it, might not have asked for it, but you think you can deliver real value for them in exchange for something not necessarily from them, but perhaps from somewhere else. So one of the key things to remember about your network is that the more you give, the more you naturally get out of it. If you just look at your network and see what you can take from it, then I don't necessarily think that's the best way of going around networking. You're trying to give as much as you can. And the more you give, the more you'll then gain. Now, what networking isn't, though, is it's not something that is linear, in the sense that if we give X amount to person A, they're going to give X amount back to us. It might not work like that. It's not it's not as simple as that. We might give more to this person, but actually end up getting more and taking more from another person elsewhere. And so what it is, it's more of a flux. It's much more flexible within that. But if you continue to think, what can I give to my network? It will naturally start to give to you. And that's where, when you're trying to take your idea from 0 to 1, you need the help of people. What about if one of your friends knows somebody else who knows somebody else who actually is really, really interested in your business, or perhaps is an investor in your business, or could be a partner of your business, or wants to help you build your business, becomes your co-founder? You never know who you're going to meet. And so one of the ways that you can do that is really by building that network, so that once you're starting to build a network, you're starting to build a small audience, so that when you're starting to get ideas out, if you need somebody to then go and get your customer feedback from, if you need somebody to be your initial early adopter and sell for you, if you need to then hire somebody, you've got that database, that network, that contact base that you can leverage, you can use whenever it suits you. So you can really latch onto that and work with it. But the only way you can do that is by building your network. Question is, how long does it take to build a network? People are building a network their whole life. And so the notion that you'll be able to do it all in a day is almost impossible, right? And so networking is really about continuing to build up that network over time, and always giving to that network, and making sure that you're always looking out for the best for people and trying to actually genuinely help them. Now, by doing that, you're able to build genuine relationships, genuine fruitful relationships, which will last for years. Now, the question is, how do we actually go around building a network? So I would argue that some of you who might say, I've never networked in my life, you're actually telling yourself a small lie there, and actually doing yourself a disservice. Because all the time that you were in school, all that time that you were in university, if you were at the pub, if you were playing sport, if you were chatting to someone in lectures, or you went for dinner with someone, you're starting to build that network. These are new contacts that are coming in. You're not necessarily looking at them from a business perspective, but naturally they're forming part of your network. And so there are two ways of going around networking. You've got what I would probably term as just your general building of relationships and friends that you'll have as you go through life. And certainly university is a brilliant place to do that if that's where you are, or indeed if that's where you were. But then also there's more deliberate networking. So actually going to networking events. Because one of the best things about actually going to networking events is that you're all going there for the same reason. You're all going there to build your network. And so actually starting a conversation with someone couldn't be easier. Walking up to a random person and saying, what do you do? is one of the easiest things that you can do. So actually building your network, you can go to these in-person networking events if that's what you're looking for. Look for something that's perhaps around. Let's say that you're working in the crypto space. Well, go to a cryptocurrency networking event. If you're working in the online coaching space, go to an online coaching networking event. If you're new to entrepreneurship, then go to perhaps an entrepreneurship meetup or networking event that's there. If you're focused in the automobile industry, try to go to those sorts of networking events. Have a look online and start to put yourself into the circles of where your customers are likely to be. Now, obviously, one of the greatest things that we can do is actually use digital marketing to get ourselves in front of those customers, and that's what we'll come on to in the final section of this course. But this is all around the sales, the B2B, the B2C sales, where we're actually selling to people. We want to start to build that network, and it goes hand in hand with our digital marketing. But these are the sorts of events that you need to be at. Second thing you can use is LinkedIn. We want to make sure we've got a really stellar, good-looking LinkedIn profile. Using that to then reach out to the right people. We can make sure that on LinkedIn we filter for those who we're particularly interested in connecting with. And when we connect with them, have a look in the templates that I've given you. I've given you a LinkedIn outreach connection template that you can use for the first time. And then once they accept, you can then follow up. And I've given you a template for that as well. So I definitely recommend you use that. And if you find that there are certain people that you want to talk to and that you think could be either a good early adopter, a great partner, someone who could be a mentor, then reach out to them, because the worst thing that they can do is say no. And who really cares? You already moved on from rejection because you had loads of it during your initial sales process. So you're trying to build on from there. One of the key things to remember, what a lot of people have said to me, and I trust me, I went through and also go through this still, networking is scary, right? It's not an easy thing to do, and you've got to put yourself out there, and it's not that easy. Certainly if you're an introvert, that's not an easy thing to do. But whoever learned anything from being comfortable? The time where we really learn things is when we're uncomfortable. And once you can start to become comfortable with the uncomfortable is the time where you're really going to excel and build your own value and build your own self-esteem and really learn those key things that are going to help you personally now go from 0 to 1. Not just your product, not just your revenue figure, but you personally go from 0 to 1. One of the key things that I would definitely suggest you use, and this is probably perhaps more for those who are maybe at the start of their entrepreneurial journey, maybe a little bit younger, who are saying, what can I offer to other people? So someone who's got 20 years experience in an industry and I have 6 months or none, what can I offer them? And I mentioned this in a previous video, in the sales video, where I said the most precious commodity that people have is time. But within that, something that you can give somebody during the period in which they're giving you their time is for you to give them attention. For you to give somebody your full attention is absolutely gold, because by really focusing on what somebody's saying, by really actually being genuinely interested in what they have to say, that in itself is a massive compliment to people. And so how can we show that we're giving attention? How can we show that we're interested? Number one is by asking questions, indeed. But number two is by asking follow-up questions from the answers that they've given. So if you were to say to someone, what did you do on the weekend? I say, I went to watch a football match. And you say, okay, what are you doing next weekend, right? Well, why don't you then say, oh, I went to watch a football match. Oh, interesting. What football match did you go to watch? Then what you're saying, they know that you've listened to it and you're asking questions off the back of what they said. Now, don't just keep on doing this just for the sake of it. Hopefully there's something of interest there. And as you start to dig deeper and deeper, you'll start to find what interests them. And so it's very easy to walk up to someone and say, what do you do? They talk first. Wonderful. You don't have to talk first. And you can just start to lean on things that they've said that you know is of interest to them. And hopefully you know something as well around that. So the question of why should you network? Hopefully you can already see I'm a big fan of networking, and so perhaps don't need to spend too long on this point, but really having having a strong network is going to give and deliver those opportunities to you. These opportunities that you didn't actually think existed will start to pop up. Will they start to pop up straight away? Possibly. Sometimes they take a little bit longer. Will they all come in a linear fashion, 2 today, 2 tomorrow, 2 the next day? No, they could all come at the same time. Then you might not get any for a couple of months, but building that network is always going to give you that chance, that opportunity to build. And what I would say is, look, remember that you're really trying to cultivate your network, right? So it's not about, we've had one conversation, I've got them on LinkedIn, and maybe in the future I might need them, and therefore we'll touch base again. Well, it may work like that, but also it might not. And I think that one quote that I would definitely recommend you keep in mind as you're going through is to give without remembering and to take without forgiving. So give without remembering, take without forgetting, sorry. So what we really mean by that is that when we're giving, don't think, oh, I gave you this, or, remember this is what I gave to you. Just give the value to them. Help them where you can. Help people where you can, and be genuinely wanting to help them. And if somebody gives you something, be thankful for that. Follow up in a month or two. That was really helpful piece of advice that you gave me, and this is how I implemented it into my business. And then finally, a couple of tools and techniques, which you've already touched on here. How can we be good at networking? How can we network? We can use LinkedIn for more of a digital perspective. We can do in-person networking, so through meetups, finding these networking events that are there. And then we start to build that and cultivate it by keeping in touch, generally via email, maybe through LinkedIn. So a few tips that we might have for networking. So if you're networking online, what we want to do is we want to make sure we have a really stellar LinkedIn profile. Have a look at some of these videos that I've put in here. They show you really how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And then when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, there are some templates that I've given as well. If we're networking in person, a few important tips which I actually didn't really understand. And when I went on my first ever networking event, I made all the mistakes that you probably could make it at networking events. So the first thing is dress for the occasion. Is it a really, really posh deal where you have to wear a suit and tie? Wear one. If it's one which is much more around t-shirts and jeans, or something a lot more casual, then wear that. Is it something where there's a lady, it might be more of a cocktail dress or a long dress type thing, or just maybe a fairly smart casual type of event. Just try to understand what the actual dress code is, because you will feel a lot more comfortable. Second thing is around business cards. So some will have business cards, some won't, but people take a lot of pride in their business cards. So if you can get one that you can get them relatively cheaply, print a few out, take them along. It's an easier way for them to keep in contact rather than just LinkedIn. They've actually got something physical. But if somebody gives you their business card, then look at it. Look at the front, turn it over, look at the back. Make sure that we're really looking at that business card and really just understanding, comment on it. Say that it looks good. Point out a certain feature, because people really do take pride in it. And one of the things that I would always remember as well is don't put that card away until they put yours away. Now, if you're both thinking the same thing, then you're obviously going to be holding those cards for quite a while. So perhaps let's not exaggerate this too much, but generally as a rule of thumb, try to keep that business card out. And when they put yours away, that is the cue to put theirs away, and put that business card into maybe a business card holder or a clean wallet. The first ever business card that I took out the messiest wallet out of my pocket. It had receipts there from everywhere. It was just an absolute mess. And it gave off such an awful impression that, that it made that person not even want to give me their business card, because they're like, well, if that business card goes in there, I'm pretty sure it's never coming out of there. And you're not going to, you're not portraying the image that you want to portray. Obviously, when you're talking, try to keep eye contact for as long as possible as you're going. And what I would say is, really don't necessarily look for business. Number one, don't try and necessarily sell things. Just try and understand what their business is. What value can you offer to them? What value can you give to them during that conversation? Or are you just going to have a conversation where you have a bit of a chat, you get to know each other, you understand a little bit about each other's backgrounds, and actually, when you want to get into the meat of it, when you want to get into a bit more business talk, you're going to set up another call in order to do that. And that's where you might use your discovery call to try and already have that warm lead, build those leads now into taking those calls. So make sure that you're keeping in contact. And then finally, on that point of keeping in contact, how do we do this? Now, there's a really cool software tool, which is a Google Mail, so a Gmail add-on. So if you don't use Gmail, there will be some other software tools, or should be some other software tools out there that will help you if you're using, for example, Outlook. But for those using Gmail, I found the tool Rebump really, really helpful. And what Rebump allows you to do is be able to essentially have a set of emails that go out over a certain set period, which are already pre-written emails, and allow you to use variables such as the person's name. Now, what does that actually mean? That means that if I were to say, hello, Mr. Smith, it was great to meet you at the event. It'd be good for us to touch base soon or next week. Send. If they reply, brilliant. If not, if they don't reply, then 2 days later, I already have scheduled an email that's going out saying, hi, Mr. Smith, did you check my latest email? If not, here's a link to my Calendly. You can book a call in with me directly. Then 4 days later, if Mr. Smith hasn't replied, it sends another reminder, hi, Mr. Smith. And that's what I mean by variable. You can put essentially the variable as name. So once you put in the name in Rebump, it will therefore then take that name and put it into every single email for that specific email address that you've put in. And so people think that you are following up really well directly with them, but actually you're using a software tool to be able to do that. And so what it means is it takes that difficulty out of your head and allows you to concentrate on building your business, whilst you know in the background there are these emails that are being sent trying to book in calls for you, so that all you need to do is turn up to that call rather than having to do the follow-up yourself. So that's a really neat little tool that I would definitely recommend you use. I'm going to spend about 2 minutes on this because I don't think you need to be lectured about how to write an email, and rather you can just go through these slides yourself, go through some of the videos yourself as well to really understand how you can write a good email. But what we're looking at is having a subject line which is really punchy, 6-7 words max. Let's be ultra clear in what that email is, about. Who are all the recipients that need to be in there? Who doesn't need to be to? who needs to be in copy. Let's make sure that all the people that need to know about this subject are in there. The body of the email, you want a nice friendly opening, but then let's make sure that that introduction says the purpose of this email. What are you trying to get out of this email? If you're adding new people into the conversation, then tell that person that you've got somebody new in CC, i.e. somebody new in copy, because when they start to see random emails coming in copy, sometimes it's a bit odd and they would prefer to know, why is this person in copy? So introduce that person and say that they're in copy. If you're attaching a PDF, then mention the attachment in the email. That means that what you're doing is you're giving two signposts. Number one, you're attaching the attachment anyway, but two, you're signposting the person in the email that there is an attachment on that email. If you're looking to send over a PowerPoint, quite often it's better to send over a PDF. It looks a little bit more professional as go, but it also depends on what you're actually doing. And then finally, when you're closing off the email, what are the next steps? What do you need from this customer, or what do you need from the person? Is it just a simple hello, nice to meet you email, or is there something that you need from them? And then obviously a professional sign off at the end. But really make sure that the words that you're choosing depends on the type of relationship that you have and you're building with that person. So this is just an email that you could use, essentially thanking people for a call. But what we're really looking at, and one of the key things that I really want you to take away from here, is that when there are multiple points you're making in an email, the best thing you can use is numbers. Now, why is that? Because I've seen emails where there were 12 different points being made, and instead of them being numbered 1 to 12, there were 12 bullet points. Now, what that meant is that when we were following this up on the call, the person on the other side of the call said, could you just look at bullet point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bullet point number 8? And then, is it this one? Oh no, sorry, 7. And so what ends up happening is that once you start to have all these points and they're just bullet points, then what that means is very, very difficult to allude to that and to reference the right thing in when you're talking on a call. And so by using numbers, it's a lot easier to say, well, can we just look at number 3, which was around using numbers instead of bullet points for a list? Because that means that I can go, right, number 3, we're all on the same page, we're all looking at the same thing. And this is really, really helpful then when it comes to having your call. And also it allows you to be a lot more structured in the way that you're presenting yourself and the way that you're presenting your work. So finally here, in terms of key takeaways, if you haven't already, what I strongly suggest you do is go away now and create a really strong LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn will also tell you how good your profile is as you start to build. So what you're trying to do is put enough information on there. You don't need to go overboard on all the experience that you've done writing reams and reams of things. In terms of your experience, you might want to put 2 or 3 bullet points that explain what you've done. And the best thing to do within those bullet points is to try and use numbers. So if one of your experiences will likely be your business, what you will want to do perhaps in your bio when you're explaining that business is, what does that business do? What's the value that it delivers? Now let's think back to value selling. Value selling, we were talking about quantifying. So have you got a solution that allows someone to reduce the time that it takes to do a particular task by 30%? Are you able to increase revenue for a company by 40%? Can you show these figures? Have you got evidence of it? And so by doing that, you can make your LinkedIn profile really, really stand out. You can be creative in there. Have a nice professional photo. Generally tends to help because of the type of social network that it is. Second thing is more around networking. Just go out and give it a go. You might hate it, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to do it, but it really, really does help. And a lot of people have come across lots of opportunities just because of the network that they have. There are also other apps such as Shaper, SHAPR, that you can download as an app onto your phone. There was another one that I came across the other day called Lunch Club as well, which allows you in your lunchtime, 15, 20 minutes, have a chat with somebody random also on that network. Why is it not awkward? Why is it not random? Because you're all there to do the same thing. If you're on Shaper, you're there to do the same thing and network. If you're on Lunch Club, you're there to network. If you're at a networking event, you are there to network. So you're there with people who are essentially looking for the same overall goal as you to network, ideally to come away with positive outcomes and positive mutually beneficial relationships. And you will have some awkward conversations. Trust me, I've been there, and I'm sure people have had awkward conversations with me as well. But the point is that you're always trying to build that network, because your network can deliver you so much more. And you can always add value to people. So never, ever do yourself a disservice thinking that you can't add value to someone. So building that network is really also going to be unique to you. So you'll always have your own unique network, and that's what will really help you to build and push forward. So bringing that all together, what we're looking here in these slides, in this area of the course, is around that business etiquette. How are we behaving in a business setting? How can we make ourselves look professional? How can we make ourselves look credible? And how can we use the power of networking to help us take our business idea from 0 to 1? How can we use networking to help us take our revenue figure from 0 to 1? And how can we use networking to take ourselves from 0 to 1 and become a better working professional? And that will allow you to build that credibility. And once people believe in you, they'll start to believe in your product. They'll start to believe in your service a lot more. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that gives you a taster into how we're now going from hardcore raw sales of can we sell our product more now into how can we shape ourselves as a credible person in that marketplace that will allow us to actually generate those leads and actually lead us to then having those conversations that will allow us to start to actually sell our product that we've created.